Hello, my name is Alexander Nietzsche. I am a grad student at the University of Denver. I'm in the Masters of Marketing program, and the session I attended was the 5 Steps to Immersive Engagement. This session was given by Sarah Dilio, who works for Gensler, as well as Nick Hubbard, who also works for Gensler. Now, this session really focuses on engagement, kind of why it's essential to work, life, and play, but also why when brands are able to put on these immersive experiences, people actually feel a lot closer to the brand itself, even though it's still, trying to sell you something, it's still part of a business thing. People are able to actually identify and care about it more, so since they've actually had an experience coming together. They said it's all about immersion, about going deeper, finding a good flow, and really facilitating growth in that relationship between consumer and the brand that they're trying to. And they talked a lot about the 5 steps, of which they identified as awareness, willingness, connection, investment, and sharing. Through each of these, they kind of just talked about how awareness specifically, a lot of events go on by brands and they don't even get the chance to promote it properly. So a lot of people don't even know what's going on, or the fact that it's going to be in their area or could benefit them. And so they say a lot of these immersive events end up falling short before they even really get to start. When they kind of wanted to focus in on the next points, willingness and connection, a lot of those points were very similar. It was more just, is this opportunity designed for me? They want the opportunity to outweigh the hesitation when doing something. So they recommend for these immersive events, make it something interactable, something that's easy to just come up to and see, or just go by, so that it's not, too much of a thing, but they still want to have more opportunity that outweighs their hesitation. And then when it comes to the actual connection, you want to make sure that it's overcoming expectations, kind of under promising, over delivering, so they're able to still come and have a really fulfilling and good experience, and still feel like their expectations were surpassed. And so they can really get to see, oh, this company can offer this, not only just in their products, but they're actually willing to take that next step and see how it almost it contributed to them as well, outside of just trying to sell them something. And that kind of is where you get that investment. Once the participants really able to see that value, there's a lot more motivation to stay engaged, and it's now has a stronger memory in that person's mind, which leads to the 5th step, sharing, with them having this desire to want to share the experience, to talk about it, to say, hey, this was cool. And that's really how a lot of brands are able to get such good word of mouth and be able to kind of share and spread what they do. They also talked a lot about, with these events, when they're working, make sure you know exactly which kind of segment you're targeting. So that comes down to everything with the location planning, what artists and kind of creatives you're going to pair with to make this event work and be a success. And just really make sure you know and understand the exact segment target that you're going for in order to make it work. Another thing they focused on is making sure they really focus on the actual reception and response of it, because not every event is going to be a hit, but ideally, even if you have an event that isn't as successful, still being able to take that feedback, understand it, listen a little bit better, and be able to start launching more events and get these more experiences to bring people towards your brand and improve upon each one, learning as you go. That's kind of what they said is really the key kind of bread and butter in order to making these super immersive and engaging events actually be able to be more effective. One thing I forgot to mention before that they talked a lot about is, with these brands, well, you also know your segment and target audience, making sure that these events still align with your brand image and kind of your output within your customer base. Because they said how some of the brands that have tried to do interactive events and have seen failure, a lot of those ones came from the fact that they were just trying to do something to generate buzz or hype, and in the end, it didn't really match with kind of the image that they had already established for themselves as a brand, and therefore was able to fail. One of the examples they talked about as a success for understanding that you can still do something a little more out there, crazy, while still staying within your brand lanes was Red Bull. They talked about how a lot of their events focus on the crazy stunts and really the energy from it, kind of, which fits within their brand of energy drinks. Their whole phrase, give you wings. And so that's one that they talked about for quite a bit as having a lot of successful immersive events just through a spectacle for a lot of them, bringing people together to witness such a crazy thing. Now, overall, I enjoyed this session. It was a little shorter than some of the other ones, but it was nice to just see kind of more basic, in plain terms that's easy to understand, of just what you should be expecting at each step for the event, how you try to bring people in. And it's nice to actually see it focused a little more from the customer side, because a lot of the time within the marketing program, we get so caught up in a lot of the details. Okay, what we're going to do to push out to this in this channel, and making sure we're hitting these demographics, versus actually getting to see to focus more on the customer journey and working through that in order to actually be able to make the best event that you can for that group. I thought a lot of the teachings also lined up with what I learned in my brand management class, especially when it came to in terms of activation. So being able to get a little more detail was nice, and overall I found the session very informational.